Hi everyone, Chris here with another video, and a different type of video this weekend to the usual match play video. So I've been recording and editing some of my matches for close to 6 months now, and in the process of doing that there are two threads that I've picked up on. The first is that when putting together the highlight videos, it feels like the majority of the points selected end with me winning those points. Now I will say that compared to most, if not all of the players that I play, my game style is relatively aggressive, and I very much go by the principles of first strike tennis. So with that in mind, it's probably not too surprising that the more entertaining points tend to be where I'm coming forward to a short ball and approaching the net, rather than either myself or my opponent on the day hitting strategically from the baseline. The second thread is that while I might make the highlight reels, I end up losing a majority of the sets and matches that I play. And tying back to the first point, due to what's almost certainly my overly aggressive style of play, the points tend to be shorter than they otherwise could be, which means fewer intense long rallies, fewer offensive shots from my opponents, and those points would obviously feature any highlights video if they got to that point. Now I've had this concept in my head for a while to do an anti-highlights video, a lowlights if you will, and after editing last weekend's video I felt this was a good example of where I played reasonably well, but still ended up losing the set. Maybe it's sadomasochism, but I figured that this experiment would be a good way to try and improve my game style. So as you can see, I've trimmed down last week's set, so only the points I've lost are present, and for each point I've analysed why I thought I lost those points. By the end, there should be some frequent reasons for why I end up losing points, and hopefully I'll learn something about my game and what I may need to adjust in order to improve. Now, even with improvements to everything I go through, it's important for me to recognise that that won't result in me winning a significant amount of these lost points. I may be overly critical of some of my analysis here, but if I can win just 10% of these points, that could very easily translate to one or more critical games won. And any opponent of mine will always have the ability to win points that I just won't be able to affect. So I'm not under any illusion that this is going to result in me winning all of these points. So what lessons have I learned from this? The biggest trend for me was, unsurprisingly, overall I was too aggressive in my play. Especially near the end of the match, I was going for unreasonable shots in situations where I'm pushed back. And if I tempered my expectations of what I needed to do, I could have extended the rally and at least given myself the opportunity to set up a better scenario to come forward to the net with, or anything else, to be honest, really. Even in the first half of the set, there were multiple shots that I hit that I'd consider too aggressive, and while I might have been making more of those shots, doesn't necessarily mean they were the right shots to actually attempt in the first place. And on another day, it's likely I'd have missed even more shots than I did on this day. The second trend of errors I noticed is there were a number of times when my movement was poor, with a lot of those occasions being due to late timing of my split step. Now, some of that will come down to anticipation of what's happening on the other side of the net and being mentally prepared for the next ball, but there is also an element of not feeling comfortable with some of my strokes, especially on the forehand side. On both of those points, as of this week, I've started getting weekly personal tennis coaching. It's dedicated at the moment exclusively just to looking at the technique of my forehand. Now, the main things I'm focusing with that is shortening my take back in order to simplify my motion, because at the moment my take back is quite far back and it just introduces a bit more complication into my swing. But also, I do need to be keenly aware of my body position, as a habit of mine is to try and use my forward momentum as part of my swing, rather than planting my feet where I need to be, giving myself an opportunity to have a more balanced stance and then hit the ball. Now as the weeks go on, I'll see how well I can commit to those improvements, but I did play yesterday after the coaching session, and early signs are promising, so we'll see how that goes. Now, the other two trends I've noticed are very much related to each other. The mental side of my game was reasonably strong for a good proportion of that set, but as soon as I lost the two set points, I clearly unravelled. one of my recent unpleasant habits is doing a good job of getting ahead, but then doing a terrible job of staying ahead, and that gets followed up by mental frustration, and eventually I just capitulate. And that last game with 3 double faults in a row just was a personification of that. So I really need to develop a stronger mind for when I'm down in a set, rather than overthinking about what went wrong in those previous points. And yeah, my serve really became a liability at the end there. But 9 double faults just in one set, regardless, it's not a good thing at all. This was a day that my serve felt off. Some of that may very well have been mental, but either way I need to find a place where my second serves are consistent. The issue I have sometimes is when I know I really need to get a second serve in, regardless of how good that serve needs to be, I go for what my body feels is a safer serve, yet as a result my serve mechanics adjust to the point where it's no longer comfortable for myself, and as a result I just double fault. So my second serve will almost definitely be the next thing I'll be concentrating on, following my improvements to the forehand. So yeah, that ends this post-mortem on my play. Hopefully today has been a bit of a cautionary tale on how looking good and winning flashy points doesn't win tennis matches on its own. But here's a question for you. Do you think my analysis was more or less accurate, or were there any other foibles in my game you picked up, be it game strategy or something more fundamental? Either way, let me know in the comments, but in the meantime, thanks for watching, wish you well, and happy tennising.